So it's me again. Welcome back. Thank you again for, just staying here as I do this YouTube thing and talk about, just recreating, rebuilding, and designing this life after 40. I don't like even mentioning age as much, but I know that we live in a society that we make judgments and declarations and like what we're supposed to have and what we're supposed to do by a certain age. Um, so that is why I mention it. And then also, if you're someone who's watching and maybe you feel that like I'm over 40 and I'm like too old and like I can't do something, like I'm just here to say like I've lived like I feel 5 lives already. And I feel like this year is going to be even better. And just remember that if you are older, that like the thing that you have is experience, you have awareness, um, and you have this time and space to change. Like oftentimes it's so easy, and I know I'm guilty. You could think about, oh, all this time that, I have been doing this thing and I can't believe I'm just figuring it out. But I'm letting you know right now, there are things that I'm also just figuring out. There are some things that I'm just getting clarity on. And I think what I want to say is that, like, leaving your old life or leaving the way you used to do things, it's actually not as dramatic as, like, most people might think. Um, because I know for me on paper, in my travels, there's a lot of things that really worked. But in my body, as of last year, and even 2024, excuse me, the realization that there were some things that were just not working for me. So I just want you to pause and just know that sometimes you're gonna feel things in your body that like remind you or just kind of you get a clue like, oh, this ain't it, right? Um, and sometimes it starts with that. Um, and if I had to describe my what I would say my old life was being capable, being responsible, being functional, being understood by others, um, even playing it safe. I think that people think that because you live abroad, there is that aspect of being courageous. But I feel that I was also playing it myself small. Now, what I mean by that is, I think just generally, I'm a person that's very optimistic. I'm generally a person that's always like grateful. And I think for me, especially with that attitude of being grateful, it's almost like I would just be grateful to have a job. Let's just using that as an example. Versus like going after maybe a leadership role or maybe being bold enough to put like my offers out there and share. So I had this level of comfort. Um, and I think it has a lot to do with healing and thinking how fortunate I am that I get to live in a foreign country, how fortunate I am that I get to see many things. And sometimes when I'm living that way, it makes me feel like, how dare I ask for more? Like, how dare I ask for more? Like, this is good enough. So, I feel like last year, it really just gave me time to think, um, like, this is good. Like, I'm really grateful. Um, but something in me has been saying, you can have more. You can do more and your life gets to be expansive. So if you're resonating with that, definitely comment, let me know. Because I think sometimes we know that, but we're scared to like make a change, especially if you've been doing a certain job for a certain amount of time. For me, I've had shame around like, oh my gosh, another country? Like Nicole, like, are you gonna like sit in one place? Like, this idea of changing your mind can seem as like being scattered and like you don't know what you're doing, or you're just adventurous and you don't have goals and dreams. Um, and I think that that's the gift about being able to reflect and being able to, excuse me, and being able to like change your mind and say, you know what? Yes, I did this, I did this, I did this, but now I'm actually clear on what I want. Because for me, some of the feelings that I was also having was dissatisfaction in myself. I'm a person that like I love reading books, I love things on personal development, and I was like, wait a minute, I know all these things, but I'm not doing all the things. Um, And I don't want to be a person that just like reads books and like knows and like not apply it. Um, and I had like this low level of pressure. I think living in my last country, um, I think one of the things I really enjoyed about when I lived, for example, in Shanghai was it had that energy of people just go-getters. And I do think that like not only the country you're in, but the community that you keep around you will have a big influence on like your goals and your dreams. And I'm here to say that you can get complacent abroad. And remember, this is all based on like what you need. Sometimes it's okay to be comfortable, but I feel like I'm young, I'm youthful. I have a lot of things that I want to do in the world, and I didn't like that feeling, you know? Um, and then I just felt like I was kind of managing my life versus living it to the fullest. Uh, and I know that might even seem surprising because, like, you might see me and I'm like traveling and all that, but there's still like all these other things. Um, that I feel inside. And I do think that sometimes, and only because I've received this as feedback, if you're around people who are also pretty just chill and like, I don't want to say complacent or just, uh, I don't even know, like even keel, if you will, then wanting more can seem like you're doing the most. Um, and I know that I had that feeling. So I started to like minimize myself. So I just knew that like the environment, like so even if you're thinking about moving abroad, I think now it's so good to have clarity on why you're moving and what you need. Because for me, I've been super thankful that I've been able to spend time in the US and think about things from a like for example, like obligation versus alignment, like, these like I should statements, versus like what feels really good. Um, so that was really one of the things, and honoring who I was, like who I've been up to this point and who I'm becoming. So who I'm becoming requires me to be in a different kind of environment, to be at a different kind of job, to be like I just had to change that. Um, it's just like, if you were looking to get into fitness or any of that type of a thing, and you'd probably be really excited to be with someone who's like always at the gym and working out. Like it's going to help you. Not saying that you can't do it without that, but it would make the transition easier, um, than anything else, right? Um, and then also just leaving because it felt very honest. I built community in Thailand, which I absolutely love. So it was very important for me to still be close to Thailand so I can connect with my community. And I felt that I had so many things to think about before deciding or being open to leaving Thailand because I felt like so many things was I was attached to so many different things. And I just know that it wasn't that I was unhappy. I just don't didn't feel like I was fully alive. That's how I would describe my experience. I wasn't fully alive. And and honestly, my last job really forced me to get clear about something I couldn't ignore, which was the kind of environment I need in order to thrive. I think just living a really good life, but like thriving, feeling good, um, these things are actually quite important to me. It showed me just like how environment matters professionally, emotionally, and financially too. So that's like another aspect of this. Like living abroad, returning to the US. Um, I didn't want to create a life that only felt good. Like, let's say I'm in Thailand. Like, I wanted it to feel good that when I went home, I felt fiscally responsible. I wanted to feel that, if I had an emergency, I had like ease. If I had to somehow just go back to the States, it would be an easy transition. And I also wanted financial flexibility, which I just pretty much said, right? Um, so those were things I was thinking about as I was living in Thailand, living in my last place. And I think just getting really honest about that, it can feel very uncomfortable. It can feel really uncomfortable. Because I think making like big statements like, oh, I don't like this place, or this place is not for you, um, when the real honesty is like, what exactly do I need to thrive? Do I have these things here? Am I trying to have these things here? Is there a better option? How fast will it take to excel in this, whatever? Um, And I do agree and believe that being grateful is like a great way to be abundant. But, we also live in this world where, we have responsibilities. Um, and it's not about like just burning everything down. It's not about like speaking negatively about another country. Um, but it's just a realization that the version of what I'm becoming no longer fits in that space, or maybe not in the capacity of what I was doing. So I know this was a little bit long-winded today, but if your life works on paper, but not in your body, not in your heart, I'm just letting you know that you're not broken. But this is an opportunity to pay attention. The best gift you could ever give yourself is to be aware of yourself, to be aware of your needs, and then being aware of how you can actually, support yourself during these times. I'm Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here with you as we continue to rebuild as we rebuild in Asia. I look forward to hear from you. Take care.